so glad you could make it today. My first question for you is,
Mhm.
what is your name and what is your connection to marketing, education, and AI?
For sure. So my name is Marcello Gortana. I'm a co-founder of a company called Tennis Inc. We are a user experience firm and digital transformation. So we design and build everything from websites to software, web applications. My connection to marketing is typically a lot of the work we do is cross-functional, but very often it's kind of spearheaded by marketing within the organizations that we work with. We typically work with companies in the like 50 to 500 range on the corporate side, and then we have a few enterprise clients, and we do some work in the VC and startup space as well. So basically everything design, strategy, and build from the ground up when it comes to applications and software.
Awesome. So,
Mhm.
you work with a lot of different, I'm sure, well, you work with mid-market, you're saying some enterprise.
Yeah.
With the mid-market companies, what are you finding with them? Like, do they talk to you about AI? Are they curious about it, or is it not really on their radar?
This is a great question. And I have had some really interesting conversations recently. I think it's still very, very, very early. I
Right.
feel like for the mid-market space, there's some real opportunity there, like very basic stuff, starting to kind of introduce organizations and workflows to AI from a content perspective. I think one of the big challenges that a lot of the kind of teams and departments we work with is they might want to start up redesign a brand new website. They have these huge lofty goals about content, and we really need to show value, but they struggle with the efficiency and workflows. And I'm very surprised that like none of the companies that I've worked with are leveraging any sort of like really basic AI tools that we're seeing out there like ChatGPT, or like incorporating those into their workflows. So it has been something that we've talked about, trying to introduce some of these mid-level, even the enterprise clients, to be honest, to start developing some of that thought around like how do we incorporate AI into just making a more efficient workflow so that we can produce more.
Mhm.
Um, and we haven't really gone that far yet, but that's kind of, I think, where a lot of companies are right now. We have a really good connection with someone who's been in AI and robotics for a really, really long time, and he's kind of started his own consulting firm. And I had a conversation with him recently, and he was talking about how that's their strategy as well, to start introducing companies to AI, because it's not really, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about like where AI is at, even from like a UX perspective. It's not really at the point where it can do a whole lot, but it is really good at just making your workflows more efficient and
Right.
helping to kind of build a really strong building block that you can then take to the next level. And I think that's where a lot of companies are starting to explore AI, but it very rarely comes up in conversation from our clients unless we kind of start to introduce it a little bit.
It's very interesting. Yeah. So I like for enterprise level, not surprised because they're probably still trying to wrap their head around like compliance and, their security team is like, I don't know about this. But I'm surprised that the mid-market companies aren't kind of at least experimenting that much.
Yeah, there was a period of time where every project we did, people wanted AI. It's like, and we'll do AI for like a recommendation engine. And I think people get confused about where uh, AI kind of begins and ends, and other technology begins and ends, especially like when it comes to recommendation engines and stuff like that. And it's not, oftentimes AI is not needed for the task that a lot of people are thinking that it's needed for, at least in our experience.
Okay.
But there was a period of time where like everyone was like, and we want to incorporate some sort of AI, and we would kind of unpack the scope a little bit and the needs, and we're like, well, that's not really, you don't need AI for this. That is not AI that you're asking for, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that a little bit too. But yeah, no, that's it's a good observation. And then the startups, they're probably just all they're using is AI, right?
Yeah, I mean, It depends. It depends on the company. I still feel like we're pretty far away from being able to rely on AI, from my experience, to
Mm,
do anything beyond helping to kind of set the stage in terms of like the work that you need to do.
right,
Um, you know, in the UX space and the development space is kind of interesting because it can be leveraged heavily. AI can start to create like some basic level code base.
right,
Someone still needs to go into it and make sure that what's being written is accurate and incorporated into a larger code base and all that. So there's still a lot of manual work that needs to be done there and expertise. But that's kind of a good example of where I feel like it's at right now. I've seen some really cool stuff, especially in the UX and web space. I've seen like website builders, like you can build an entire website using AI,
yeah,
but that's not a B2B tool. There's way too much complexity in almost every use case that I can think of.
right,
And maybe it'll get there, but right now I think that's more of a consumer product. I've seen some cool tools around wireframing, so helping to start building out the wireframes and styles for websites, which
right,
is also interesting. I think it's a good base again as well for someone with the expertise to go in and kind of start to expand for something more complex. A really interesting one that I recently stumbled upon, I think it was maybe even like 6 months ago now. There's a an AI. I think there's a few out there right now, but there's an AI research tool called Synthetic Humans,
oh,
and it
interesting,
was created by a UX, like kind of like our idols in the UX space, a company called Fantasy, which is probably one of the bigger brands in UX design, and they actually created this tool. And you can start to create the personas that you're targeting for your product or whatever it is, product app. And
right,
you can actually use synthetic humans as the personas to do all of your research.
cool,
Yeah, it's really cool. I will follow up. I've got a bunch of stuff that I can send over to you afterwards as some sources that you can kind of send out to people. But it's very cool. I did a demo of it and I was pretty blown away. I still am not sure how much of it is marketing and how much of it is actually as powerful as it seems, because I think that from what I've been reading, persona research and persona development, like humans are a lot more complex and nuanced. So I've heard that we're not there yet, but it is a really, really, really cool product, and definitely check it out because it's fascinating, and they've done a really great job with it.
oh my God, I have so many questions. I have so many
Yeah.
questions. The first question would be with that tool. I think what's really interesting is, um, oh man, yeah, I'm just trying to wrap
It's
my head.
amazing.
But I mean, is it more about like user testing? Like, do you remember the days when, like Steve and I worked on this project a long time ago for a conservation area near Toronto?
Hmm.
And we did user testing on their website, and we used usertesting.com
Hmm.
and used real humans to give us feedback. And it was great, actually. But do you see a future where you can do user testing with like synthetic humans on use cases for web like testing? I don't know.
I think that user testing is a separate
Is it?
AI function. There's some really cool. I was actually just looking at a product today that was an AI SEO tool. So you pay a monthly fee,
Okay.
and it basically makes recommendations for how you should change. It's actually pretty very cursory review of it, but it was really interesting because, and I know SEO is again way more complex, but for people who want to kind of make small changes and start building towards a better
Hmm.
ranking site, it's great. And they make some
Sure.
really interesting suggestions, and the suggestions make total sense. So I think the user testing and stuff like that would be probably a separate tool. I think what they're launching with is the kind of the persona development, persona research,
Yeah.
being able to narrowly define the audience that you're trying to trying to understand and empathize
Right.
with, which would cost a fraction of having to do that in real life, based on the huge amount of data that they have.
Right.
I
Like
think
if you
that's where
were
they're
like soccer moms in suburbia.
left-handed, yeah, soccer moms who drive red cars and live in suburbia. Um, I think from what I remember, that's kind of where they're playing.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah,
It's
that's
very cool.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
check it out. Do a demo. It's amazing.
yeah, I'd like to. I mean, I just always find it curious because we are kind of just, skimming the surface of where we can
Oh
be.
yeah.
I mean, that's why Steve and I started this community, was just to start having these conversations with people and see what people are dabbling in. And,
Hmm.
a year from now, we may be having a completely different conversation or maybe not,
Totally.
right? So,
Totally. Yeah, I
so
think also from like an entrepreneurship perspective and from a small business perspective, we're just going to have so many powerful tools. I saw another tool recently where you could build an org chart
yeah.
based on AI based personas. So like a director of marketing, a CFO, a sales director, and then they would make recommendations on what to do in your business based
Oh,
on
wow.
all of this data that they're pulling from. That I don't know what kind of data they're using, but like it
I was
must
gonna
be.
say.
I think it's still. I can't even remember what it was called, but I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. That would be so cool to play around with and see like how powerful that could be in the future too.
Yeah, because it's all about like what you're feeding it to, right? Like if
Totally.
I owned a company, Puppies Incorporated, I'd want to put all of my information about my company into the tool so that it would learn all about like my company to be
Yeah,
able
yeah. And
to give me those recommendations.
yeah, and the profiles are similar. It's like, an e-commerce company at $0 to $1 million is probably needs to do the same things as in one industry as an e-commerce company that's in a different industry, but they're both selling products online. So, from a marketing perspective, there's probably some similarities and similar
Yeah.
strategies that work. Just like if you went to a marketing director who had experience in the space, they'd probably say like, okay, you guys are in the exact same position, different industries, different products. You should probably do these steps, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Like when I kind of play around even just with the LLMs, some of the like I'll test it against what's in my own head.
mhm.
And, I wouldn't say it's like a lot of it's what it spits out is pretty generic, but there's sometimes it's like, oh, that's interesting what it said. So it's
Yeah, or
it's really
sometimes you're
all
like, yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what I was thinking, and that's validated this idea.
yeah. And that's scary too. But actually what I wanted to do is ask you to talk more about tennis and
Sure.
like just like what does tennis do? Because like I've seen, I wouldn't mind you hearing it from your own words.
Yeah. So, in the simplest terms, we design, strategize, and build applications and websites. Typically in the web. We don't do a whole lot of native apps, because they're not really like the way the internet's going with progressive web apps. You don't need an app on the App Store anymore. So oftentimes it's not needed. It's just an additional expense because you have to build it twice. With
Right.
a progressive web app, basically anything that's a progressive web app, which looks and feels like a website on a browser, can cache on your phone as an app. So it's very rarely needed that you need to go to the app store. Some consumer products are different, but yeah, we work with organizations in that mid market and enterprise space, and we come in and help them to design and build tools and applications and websites, things like that they kind of require. Sometimes it's very abstract. Someone comes to us with an idea for a new application. It's their first time kind of generating revenue with an online product. And so they're like, we're going full force in this direction. We're going to be creating this application to generate revenue. And that's all they have is just the idea. So it's our job to kind of define the why, the how, the what, how are they supporting it internally, build out a blueprint for them, and then we can execute on that blueprint together through user experience design and development. Um, that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
And do you find that sometimes when someone comes to you with an idea, and then after you go through the exercise, you kind of it's completely changed for the
For
better?
sure, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that
Yeah.
happens often.
Okay.
Mainly because it's hard to. I wouldn't say it's completely changed, but sometimes it is.
Right.
Sometimes, oftentimes, it's just more refined and contained because I find that sometimes people come to the table with a lot of ideas, a
Yes.
lot of different sort of interactions and strategies. But oftentimes people don't know the details around the technology. The
Right.
cost is a big one. Like development and design can scale, it can be pretty expensive. So
Yeah,
we
for
need
sure.
to kind of help to define that. And oftentimes, similar to that AI comment that I made before, oftentimes the idea is not, it's interesting, but it's not necessary, or sometimes it actually won't even help the product.
Yeah.
So we kind of need to spend some time to really understand not just what they're trying to do, but the organization, what their goals are, what the KPIs are, why they're doing it, who the users are from the organization perspectives,
Right.
in addition to who the end users are, and start to define and design and build an application that's going to achieve all the goals.
Yeah, because I would think it would be kind of more of a grounding exercise every now and then, just to help them stay in,
For
you know,
sure.
what they really should be accomplishing. Because sometimes
Totally.
clients will say, "Hey, oh, well, actually, I was just talking to, VP over here, and they have this idea and that idea," and it just, okay, let's
Yeah.
bring it back to, our
So
main.
yeah, totally. So our slogan is from process to impact, and the reason why that's our slogan is because when we started this company, it was just my business partner and I, and we were, okay, someone come to us with an idea, okay, we'll do it. Yeah, let's move forward, full speed ahead. Then I found that that was a problem, right? We're designing, building, and thinking collectively at the exact same time, which is a problem because you can't just continuously pivot all the time based on what the next new idea, whatever it is. So
Right.
over the last 10 years, we defined a process that kind of helps to slow it down and helps to really take our clients through a framework that creates a really solid blueprint with space to add any sort of variability as we move along the process. And we've broken it down to think, prototype, build. So those are the three stages. And then in the think phase, our framework's called HOLLOW, which stands for humans, organization, landscape, and objectives. And those are the frameworks that we kind of go through with our clients to really spend the time that we need to spend upfront to properly define and
Right. Yeah.
create the plan and then execute on the plan.
Nice. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. So are you using AI at all in any of those three like processes at all? Like,
No, not really, not currently. Like I said, we're experimenting with a lot of that stuff. I think that I can see a lot of opportunity for efficiency on our end to help speed up the process,
mm,
and just make it more efficient and maybe start with some building blocks. I think that the research side is really interesting to me. That synthetic humans application is super interesting, but they're not up and running totally yet, so we won't really be able to mess around with that yet. But I could see, that's the one thing that I find that, if there's anything that's going to drop in a budget, it's typically research,
right.
from my perspective at least, the
Hmm.
experiences that I've had, because we're talking about the strategy, design, and build. If we could do more research, it would really help to kind of build a better product. But it's one of the things that people don't want to invest a lot of money in. So if that application is more of a subscription basis and we could kind of do research faster,
Right.
that would be really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot of really interesting AI integrations into some of the software that we use, like Figma, Monday, and those are all just designed to make things happen faster, basically.
Yeah,
And kind of,
absolutely. I mean, I've been kind of dabbling around with different things. Like the other day, one of my colleagues and I were just uploading a CSV file to ChatGPT, and we were asking ChatGPT questions about what was on the CSV file. And what was funny was it kept getting the calculations wrong at first.
Hmm.
And we kept telling, like, and after a while, we just said, actually, it all adds up to this number. And once we told it that, then it actually was able to read all the calculations. Like, it was really strange that that happened, and then it was able to
That's
analyze the spreadsheet. But like, it's just so funny, like, depending on who's asking the prompt or who's,
totally,
you know what I mean? Like, everyone asks things differently, so you're going to get a different result. Like, it's still kind of Wild West right now, but it is
totally.
very interesting. So I guess my question is, like, are you using it all in your personal life at all?
More just to kind of experiment with, and more just like hobbies. I actually,
Yeah.
I was, we started kind of experimenting with Midjourney very early on, and I just loved it. I was like making photorealistic versions of my dog, and like it was like
Yeah.
exactly the same, just based on descriptions. And then I wanted to kind of like explore what else and how much deeper I could go with the prompts. And so I had the sci-fi book that I was reading, and I basically was like, I'm going to try and create every character based on descriptions of the book.
Mm,
And so that kind of became a little bit of a hobby for me in my spare time. I was making these kind of characters, and it was just a good avenue for researching a bit more about how to create better prompts. And so that was super fun. I think ChatGPT is great. I haven't really used it for content a whole lot, but I do like, I find it really interesting for lesson plans. So
mm,
sometimes if there's something that I want to learn, I'll go to ChatGPT, and I just did one recently. I wanted to continue learning a little bit more about AI, and I asked it to build me a plan, 100-day plan, spending 30 minutes a day to expand from where I am to where I want to be. And it just like spit out an entire schedule for me. Do this, on this day one, day two, day three, and you just can kind of like, I've been doing that a lot actually. I
yeah.
also like to, I also like
Organize your
to,
life.
yeah, a little bit of organizing my life, but I've been kind of like creating these lesson plans on things that I want to learn, because sometimes I'm like, I want to learn how to, I don't know, produce music, but I don't know where to start. So then I just like build out a plan for someone who knows nothing about music to
Right.
get to a certain level in 100 days, and it's pretty great actually at that. I
That is,
found that
I'm gonna try that because, like, yeah,
yeah.
I want to learn more about, like, doing some electronic music. So I'm gonna ask
Mhm.
some questions about that.
I literally did that exact same thing, and it
Oh,
was
that
like
one.
it started with like music theory, and then it was like go into like structure and start learning all these things before it even started getting into like more executional stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's nice to put a time frame on it too, because then it'll put together, you have a full lesson plan there, right?
That is so cool. It didn't even occur to me to, if you only have like half an hour a day, which most people have, no time, with kids and work,
Totally.
whatever. So it's nice to know that it can do that little, like, even just 30 minutes a day, you can learn a new skill or a new hobby. So,
Yeah, yeah. I've been using it a lot for specifically for that purpose, just to kind of like help structure me and learning new
right.
things and doing a bit of
Awesome.
planning. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Next question. What do you fear most about the changes that AI is going to bring?
I saw this question, I originally was like, I don't really fear anything
Hmm.
necessarily. I know that there's a lot. It really depends on who you are, and how you're affected personally. And I feel like where the space that I'm in, um, AI will help, and I know that it's challenging for other people. So I'm kind of
Right.
privileged in that position. But then I kept thinking about it, and I remembered. when I was kind of doing more research in AI, there's a few things that are terrifying. I think first and foremost, regulation is desperately needed, and
Yes.
and governments are so slow. We're still trying to regulate social media, and the effects of social media on kids is just
Yeah.
crazy. There are some really wild experiments that have been happening in AI that make me think that we desperately need regulation and needs to move faster.
Yep.
There's a couple that I think of right off the bat. So one of them was uh, a lab used AI to look at brain scans based on what physical objects people were looking at, and then it would show the AI basically this is the brain scan, this is the physical object. And then after a while, they removed the physical object, and the AI could create the physical object that just by looking at the brain scan.
Oh no.
So, we're going to have major privacy issues, like way beyond what we're dealing with right now. The other one that I thought was also kind of interesting, which again goes back to privacy, is they did basically the same thing, but by using Wi-Fi signals in a room and then showing the AI what the room looked like. And then basically over time, the AI could map out an entire room, including the people that were in it, based just purely on the Wi-Fi signals. So, uh,
Oh,
that stuff is happening, and it's already successful, and
mhm.
we are so far behind in regulation, and like we're not even most like we're just not even talking about that stuff really. Um, I also think that like AI in combination with social media is just going to create an even bigger problem for kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is still accurate, but at one point, I saw an example of Snapchat, and it was a kid's profile or a kid's Snapchat profile, I guess.
Yeah.
And on their friends list, the very top friend was actually an AI. It was blatant that it was an AI, but now you're basically giving kids access to the same sort of stimulus that they have during the day 24/7, because you can talk to your AI friend literally anytime you want.
Yeah.
So we're just increasing the amount of usage and dependency on some of these applications, which is really scary to me. And I think, we just need to get some regulation in place and make sure that this isn't going to be damaging for people, and
Yeah.
that
Like it
we
could
still have
change
privacy.
social fabric and how
Oh,
people actually
yeah,
communicate with each other. And yeah, okay.
totally.
I just imagine like the bar scene in Total Recall, the first Total Recall, but whatever. Okay, so what do you hope AI can improve our lives with in the near future? So getting away from the data,
Yeah,
which I totally agree with you on all your points, that it is scary to think.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm really excited about AI in education. I think that's going to be revolutionary. I think that,
Right.
assuming that the structures in place that provide education can adapt, I think that AI is going to completely change the way we educate kids. I think everyone's going to have the ability at least to have their own unique learning path and their own unique way of learning.
Hmm.
And AI is going to facilitate a lot of that. And I think that, like the model that we have right now, in my opinion, doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
Um, and everyone's so different, but we just continue to kind of force this. I mean, I guess it makes sense at the current state, but I think AI has the potential to do some really interesting things in education. And I think having your own tutor, for instance, like that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Steven's actually doing a demo next week with Tutelo. They're a
Okay.
UK company that is doing that actual thing, and they just won
Okay,
an
cool.
award for it. So it's basically any student, it's an AI tutor assistant for the student based on what the student is having trouble
So
understanding,
cool.
or yeah, so it's just like it's an AI tutor assistant that can help. And I used to teach a lot in the adult education space, and I even think Like that is such an awesome like idea, as even for adults, you know. And Martin's just saying, get it for my
Yes,
kid.
yeah.
I know, right? I think so. Tutelo is more for university level students, but you know it's coming for
Oh, I think it's going to be a hugely positive change for kids
absolutely.
and adults.
Well, even like kids that have certain developmental like
For
disabilities,
sure.
like, you know, they might have dyslexia or, you know, some sort of form of autism or however it is. And the tutor is able to kind of just like cater to the needs of
For
the,
sure. For
yeah,
sure. And yeah, there's just so many different learning styles, right? It's like not everyone has the same way of learning. So,
yeah.
we need to have that variability.
For sure. And just going back to the regulation thing. So, we actually next Thursday, at the Great Hall, the IAB Canada is doing, a whole brainstorming session around AI
Oh,
and regulation, and I'm gonna
oh,
go.
cool. Okay. I'm gonna look that
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and there's a promo code if you're interested. I'll send it to you
Okay.
anyway.
Cool.
For members of Me Plus AI,
Okay,
she's
cool.
got a promo code if you want to join. It's like an afternoon, and basically how they're doing it is a little bit different than your usual conference where um you go out into workshop sessions and you workshop an idea or concept and then you bring it back, and then the panel of experts are looking at what the different workshops different people have discussed. So
Cool. That's
it's
interesting.
right. Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool. I'm excited to check it out, but I thought I'd mention it to you about that.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Coming. And then my last question for you is
Mhm.
what is your favorite, what's the best sandwich? Not your favorite. It is, you know, the best sandwich ever.
You know what? I just moved my office to Young and Bloor, and there's a place there called Cafe Landwehr, and they do a shawarma sandwich that is like so legit that it's my favorite sandwich right now. It's
Really?
so delicious.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I've only seen there's one at the corner of Richmond and University, I think.
Oh,
And
a Cafe Landwehr?
yeah, I
Oh,
haven't
cool. I
done
don't. It's good. It's really good. Yeah,
shawarma.
it's actually everything there is good. I've had a couple things there.
You're the first person I've interviewed that says shawarma. We've had two club sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if shawarma is like exactly a sandwich, but they call it
Oh
a
yeah,
sandwich at Cafe Landwehr, and it's my favorite one right now, so it's fresh in my mind.
awesome. Listen, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And as I mentioned, like I will definitely share with you the recording from the session. And
Cool.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
again, thanks for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love what you guys
Yeah,
are doing, and I'm
thank
happy to
you.
get involved. I find this all very fascinating, so
We're at 375 members today.
it's awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. If you know anyone that's interested, like throw them an invite
I
or
I do. I know someone that might be a good someone to do one of these as well, who's actively doing a lot of regulation work and education stuff in AI. So I'll make that connection.
thank you very much. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Wow.
Bye. See you,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.